Well, it's official. NBA teams now have been able to trade for a couple days now, but things are just getting started when it comes to blockbuster trades that could shake the league. Today we will be diving into one of the hottest topics revolving the free agency and trade market, the Houston Rockets. But not only the team as a whole, specifically the James Harden situation and the sticky situation that the Rockets are in as we speak. And the fact that if James Harden goes to any of these teams that have been in the trade talks, they will instantly become a favorite to win the finals next season and potentially form a dynasty over the next couple of years. There have been three main teams in the mix of trade talks for James Harden, but before we get into each team, we have to talk about the Houston Rockets and the situation that they're in right now. It's not a secret to anyone that the Rockets core in James Harden and Russell Westbrook gained uncertainty once the Rockets got a new coach, but there is speculation that there is something being hidden from the public by the Rockets. I say this because just a couple weeks ago, James Harden said he was locked in for the upcoming season with Houston and ready to win. At this time, the rumors of Harden getting traded lost all their momentum because the Beard himself said that he was in Houston to stay and he did not want to get traded. But here's where things get crazy and why I think there is something going on that we don't know about. Out of absolutely nowhere, just a few days after Harden said he was committed to the team and locked in, he retracted his statement that he made by demanding a trade from the Rockets. This came out of absolutely nowhere, and many people, including myself, were surprised because the man just said he was content a couple days ago, which has led many people, including myself, to think that something happened. And the wild part is, this isn't even the craziest part that happened. Just a few days ago, the Rockets offered James Harden a 2-year, $103 million bag that would have made history, making James Harden the first ever NBA player to receive more than $50 million a year. And this man instantly turned down this deal and said he wants out. My question is, how did James Harden go from, quote, committed and locked in to wanting out of Houston so bad that he turned down over $100 million without hesitation? We will more than likely not know the answer to this for a while, if not at all. But the fact is, Harden wants out so bad that he is nearly 100% guaranteed to get traded. But maybe not as soon as we might think. Although there are many factors of why we may not see the Harden trade go down as soon as we think, most of it comes down to the fact that the Rockets want to get full value for what Harden is worth, even if it takes them a long time to do so. And I can't disagree with their logic here. They're not just going to give away the MVP offensive firepower weapon James Harden for just picks and stuff like that in return. They want a star back. And there are some teams that can offer this, which is what we are going to get into soon. Multiple reports have said that the Houston Rockets are not afraid for things to get uncomfortable with the James Harden and Russell Westbrook situation, indicating that they may hold on to Harden into the upcoming season despite his trade demand. But there is a chance that James Harden could get traded soon, and there are three teams that seem to be frontrunners to acquire the Beard and form a super team championship contender. But before we get into those teams, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew if you are liking this video. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers in the first month of having the channel, so if you could subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you are liking the video, it would be great if you guys destroyed that like button down below. It tells YouTube you guys like the video, and it helps the Woods crew grow. And lastly, if you want daily hoops updates on the gram, drop me a follow at Woods Hoops. It's always linked below. Now let's get into the three teams who have a legitimate shot at landing Harden and what it would do for their franchise. First one of those teams is the Brooklyn Nets. Initially, when James Harden trade rumors started to stir, the Nets were looking like the frontrunners to land him in a massive deal with their young talent. Per report, the Nets have officially offered a trade package for James Harden and are working on finalizing the deal that, if done, will not be announced until November 22nd. The Brooklyn Nets trade offer for Houston Rockets star James Harden consists of Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and Taurean Prince. Now this trade was sent in by the Nets before the Rockets even said there was a possibility of trading the Beard. I think it's very interesting that the Nets were so willing to give away some of their key role players, being that the full team hasn't even played a game yet together because of the Kevin Durant injury. Now I know that Harden is undoubtedly one of the top 3 best offensive players in the league at the moment, but the fact that the Nets were so interested in him right away, despite already having 2 stars, is bold to say the least. But hey, they are trying to form a dynasty, so I can see why they would try to make a splash for a superstar like Harden. Here's where things actually get crazy though. Although the Rockets rejected the first trade proposal from the Nets, they did leave the door open for a potential blockbuster trade that would shake the league when they said that they would be willing to trade Harden to Brooklyn if they got KD or Kyrie in return. Initially, people thought that this was crazy and there's no way that the Nets would trade away one of their 2 stars. But then people got to thinking, and many are now speculating a monumental Harden-Kyrie Irving swap that would reunite Kevin Durant with his former Thunder teammate Harden and send Kyrie to Houston to be the head of his own team once again. Despite many opinions that this may not be the best idea for the Nets, I think that it actually would help them in the long run. Because let's face it, you know what? Before I say this, you can disagree with me without getting mad because it's just my opinion. That's all I have to say about that. But I think that Kyrie Irving is toxic off the court for any team that he is on. And to prove my point, he said that he does not want Harden on his team. Quote. Yikes. I mean, just look at the past teams that Kyrie has been on. He was on the dominant Cavs team, but left because he wanted to be the man and have his own team. Then went to Boston, where the locker room issues were so bad that some of his teammates told the public he was toxic. Then he goes to Brooklyn and is now acting like he doesn't need a coach. If you haven't heard, Kyrie does not view new Nets head coach Steve Nash as a coach for him. Ridiculous, man. But locker room issues aside, this isn't even the main reason, in my opinion, that the Nets should go for this swap. Tell me honestly how many games Kyrie has played in the last 2 years, because it has not been that many. And this was a big concern for the Nets when they acquired Kyrie, because the Brooklyn Nets need someone who can be healthy deep into the season if they are trying to go after a ring. But look what happened to Kyrie Irving again last season. He got injured. Again. If I were the Nets, I would most definitely consider this swap with the Rockets because they have a player who has exactly what they are looking for: consistency. Harden has had very few injuries over the years and is almost always on the court for his team, as well as the fact that Harden is one of the most consistent offensive players in the league, scoring-wise. It just seems like a perfect fit in my opinion. The question is, will the Nets be willing to take the risk and trade Kyrie Irving? I think they should, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. As I was making this video, horrible news came in that not only is devastating to the second team I'm going to talk about, but also increases their chances of acquiring James Harden immensely. I'm talking about the Golden State Warriors, who all of a sudden have rumors floating around that they may trade for the Beard. Golden State was looking like they were going to be back to where they were dominating the league this year, until news just broke out a few days ago that Klay Thompson injured his leg while preparing for the upcoming season. And as it turns out, Klay tore his Achilles and is going to miss the whole 2020-2021 season, which is absolutely devastating for Steph and the Warriors. I think people have forgotten how lethal Klay Thompson is and the fact that he is one of the best shooters of all time. But unfortunately, it looks like he won't be able to remind everyone for a while, which leads us into why the Warriors may try and pull off the trade to bring James Harden to the Bay and fill the void of Klay Thompson. Despite this massive blow for the Dubs organization, you know that they are still going to try and win now, with Steph Curry in the best shape he's ever been and their new big man, James Wiseman. But if the Warriors don't think what they have is enough, they will most definitely trade for an offensive star like Harden. The main reason that this trade may go down is the fact that the Warriors are one of the best set up teams to trade for a superstar in the league, and they have so many assets and big contracts of players like Wiggins, which gives them the ability to trade for almost anyone in the league right now. Let me just say, if the Rockets want to get the most value for Harden that they can without acquiring a star like Kyrie Irving or Ben Simmons, the Warriors are the best bet for them as of right now. With the confirmation that Klay is out for the year as well, I would not be surprised if the Warriors make a move on Harden soon, so they can come back as dominant as ever. There isn't a whole lot of information out there on this trade, but I had to mention it because the Warriors are the Warriors, and they can make almost anything happen. And I think that the Harden-Curry duo would be unstoppable, even for the Lakers. The fact that the Warriors just acquired Kelly Oubre from the Thunder makes me think it is a little less likely they go for a star now, but you never know. The Warriors have made some big moves in the past that no one saw coming. With that being said, there is just one more team that James Harden could potentially get dealt to, and that is the team that many have suspected since Harden's former head coach Mike D'Antoni joined them, the 76ers. Let me just say that if the 76ers were able to pull off a Harden trade without giving up many assets, Philly becomes a championship contender instantly. The Sixers were just able to get rid of Al Horford's awful contract and bring in two lethal shooters in Danny Green and Seth Curry. A round of applause for the 76ers front office, to say the least, especially after what they did last year signing Al Horford in the first place and letting JJ Redick walk. It is believed that behind the Nets, Philadelphia is the second most likely spot for Harden to land, simply because Mike D'Antoni is there now and would like to acquire Harden. And they have the ability to give Houston a star in return, which is really all they are looking for, because it would be nearly impossible to get back what Harden is worth without including a star player. If the 76ers were able to trade for Harden with a package revolving around Ben Simmons, I think that they could be favorites to win it all with the Embiid-Harden duo, as well as the new players they just acquired to add to their already solid roster. But it's looking like the Rockets want Embiid, and that is a price that may be a little too steep for the 76ers front office. But we will just have to sit back and see what happens. It will be very interesting to see where James Harden gets dealt to, and I want to hear from you guys below. Where do you think the Beard will get traded to out of the three teams I went over today? Or do you think that he will go somewhere else? Who knows if we see this trade anytime soon, because Houston made it clear that they are in no rush to trade the Beard and aren't afraid for things to get uncomfortable. So maybe not even until after the season begins will we see a blockbuster Harden trade. But just know, when it does go down, we're making a video on it. I hope you all enjoyed this video, a little longer than most, but there was a lot to dive into in the topic of James Harden, to say the least. If you aren't already subscribed and you are new, go ahead and join the Woods crew by hitting that sub button. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like would be greatly appreciated. I'm not sure at the moment if the next video will be about the Thunder and the moves they've made, or the Timberwolves' revamped roster after the draft. So just hit that bell so you know when it drops. I'll catch you all in the next video. Woods out.